We're starting in 5, 4, 3, 2. Well, I have to be honest with you. I'm going to be messing around with this video for the people who do take a look at us on video. I've messed it up a few times. Oh, by the way, I should let you know when we've started the podcast, and it began about 14 seconds ago.
Is it bad when neither person knew that?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm doing this thing where I keep telling you this. I keep thinking that this show is like a TV show, and it's not. It's kind of a look in at us, and I swear I don't know how you change your view. You must move around in the movie chair, because there are shadows that weren't there minutes ago, and I swear the mic was on the other side of you. I don't know if you're in a different dimension. You've gone through the wormhole. There it is. There it is. There
hey,
it
look
is.
at that face.
Yeah,
look
you're pretty. You're
face.
real pretty.
I'm a beautiful man.
So part of what I'm going to be doing here is working on, for the people watching the video, for the people just listening to the audio portion of the podcast, they'll be like, why does he keep talking about this? Why do I talk about anything? Just to hear myself. Been there, done that. So that's a little Trump inside of me. Hello, and there's nothing little about me. So, by the way, I figured out ways to, because you and I were talking about this a little bit, like trying, one thing everybody always wants me to do is do more voices. And one of the difficult things for me is that when there are impressions that don't make sense, it's the toughest thing in the world, because it just feels old to me. So Trump is always, right now, the president, no matter who the president is, they're always topical in some way, shape, or form. Now, are you going to get in trouble with one group or another by doing it? I don't know. I think by looking at some of our rundown for tonight, I'm going to be in quite a bit of trouble anyways, or potentially. So one of the things I've been doing is practicing going to these different cameras, which right now I just switched one. So I'm the major one talking. I should have been doing that a little bit earlier. And then when you take over, the screen will change to you be up in the upper left-hand corner, and I'll be in the lower right-hand corner. And then when it's evening out like it normally does, we're side by side and best friends forever. So that's about that. Again, are you still, or I can't tell if you've gone. I cannot. You are not human. There's no way.
I'm just gonna raise my.
No, because you sit so, and people that don't know this, sometimes our link. You're in Denver. I am in Phoenix area, and sometimes the link goes down, and I'm talking to a frozen you, and it's not that much different than live you at times.
That sounds like an episode of Black Mirror called Frozen You.
There it is. Yeah, I like it. I'm going with it. Let's make it up right now.
All right, Frozen You is it's a Black Mirror episode where obviously back in the day you could always freeze sperm, but now in the future you can freeze a couple different versions of Frank. We realized that we cannot stop human beings from aging, but what we can do is freeze them. So when your wife needs task-oriented Frank, she can freeze comedian podcast Frank, and then get task-oriented Frank, and he takes your daughter to soccer and goes to the grocery store and cleans the gutters, and then she freezes that Frank, and then for Valentine's Day, she breaks out the Love Master Frank.
I was going to say that it's the letter U that gets really cold. My God, you just broke that out. I wish that I had that kind of mental strength that you just performed.
My brain is very strange.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I'm in once again in awe of you. So I'm going to be messing with the cameras. I just realized that my hand has to be in that position the whole time now, and I already have carpal tunnel.
Sure, we'll blame it on that, Frank.
Listen, let's not get nasty here, fella. I'm going to move the keyboard over. It's this special keyboard that allows me to do it. And before I would have to point and click a bunch of times to do things. And now I can just press a button and magically I go into and now I'm even guessing and getting it right now. So this is going to drive listeners to view us on YouTube. This is going to be huge. Frank playing with buttons to make it decent. So how I wanted to begin with a little bit of a personal thing this week on my own was that so my daughter in school sends us a text on Thursday, I believe it was. And the text was, don't worry, but there was a school shooting threat at our school, and they went to the kid's house and made sure he didn't come to school. So that was a crazy moment. I'm not going to get into any of the, any politics of it at all or anything, but it was just one of those, we can eventually talk about that, but it was one of those things where I didn't freak out. I because the way she phrased it and let us know and said, I was actually pretty cool about it because the school was so proactive on it. And that made me feel pretty, as bad as I felt, scared in that moment. I also was like, okay, they're on it. They that's good. And there's lots of stuff going. I can't believe the amount of stuff going on in schools and the rumors of stuff, not even the gun types of things, but there in a couple of the schools around here, there's kids bringing edibles in 6th and 7th grade.
That happened in Cleveland last week. A kid brought some gummy bears from his parents' house, I'm assuming, and gave it to a bunch of kids. And I believe it was 9 kids had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of those difficult situations when if you, I mean, listen, I'm all for people doing whatever they want, really, as long as they're not infringing on other people. And in that situation, I think you have to make sure your kids aren't getting into this stuff. It's you just have to be careful. It's the same as, the gun type of situation that you just can't leave things out. And kids, I don't know whether they knew that these are drugs or not, but it doesn't matter. You as a parent, I guess if you're doing certain drugs, though, I don't know if you're going to be the most responsible with them at the time.
I mean, that's definitely part of it. I think another part of it is you have to think about how, first of all, and we're going to get to the situation with your daughter after this, because I mean that's a whole other conversation. Luckily, we have a podcast. But when we're talking, as for the weed edibles, I mean, you have to think about how brand new this is. We're talking about in certain states the legality being between 2 and 4 years. So I mean, if you think about that in terms of a human being, we're like a 4-year-old. We don't know exactly what we're doing, and the fact that we have drugs that look exactly like freaking candy, and we don't see a problem with that. I mean, think about this: if you had, Grey Goose vodka, but it also came in the same box that a Capri Sun or a High C came in.
I was picturing Gerber baby cereal for some reason. I
mean,
know. But you're right. Yours was actually way better, of course, with the Capri Sun. Continue. I'm sorry.
I mean, would that be as egregious? And I'm not letting the parents off the hook at all. I'm more indicting all of us for us not seeing that if we are going to legalize this, the fact that we have marijuana that look with drugs. We have THC, things that are laced with THC. That
C or G? Is it C? It's C, right?
C. Yes. C.
Okay. I didn't know what the G. I thought you said G, and I was like, G. What don't I know?
That's a real serious strain. No, the fact that it looks like things that a child would eat, or you know what else it looks like? It looks like something that you or I would eat, Frank. And as somebody like yourself that does not do any type of drugs or hallucinogenics, eating one gummy bear, and it's funny because we always look back at there's that classic YouTube video of the cops that called the cops on themselves because they thought they were dying. And yes, that is funny, but I'm sure that was terrifying to those people. And I couldn't imagine if you thought you had eaten some gummy bears and then got in the car with your kids in the backseat and your wife next to you, and all of a sudden the highway starts moving. I mean, and that's you as a grown man. I mean, there's nothing. It's really strange that we've taken toy guns off the market for the most part, and the ones that are on the market are orange and lime green, and we even took Big League Chew off the market. We've taken all these things that are for adults, candy, cigarettes, all these things that are for adults, and we put them away or we made them illegal. But yet you can have gummy worms that somebody that makes gummy worms for a living could not tell the difference between. And somebody could have them laying around the house. And there's no way that a child and the scary thing is kids like that don't eat just one, like somebody that knew that they were consuming marijuana. Some of those kids might have had 5, Frank.
Right. It is weird that people put them in things that I don't know. Maybe it's not weird. Maybe it's marketing. Maybe it's just the fun of it for the people. I mean, again, like every issue, I'm torn on it completely, but I agree. I on that side of it, it's really tough. And if you've got that stuff laying around, or the kids know where to get it in your house, I think it's similar, exactly what you're saying with the toy guns and all that type of stuff. You've got to be careful. You can't. I mean, I don't know. It's just it's kind of got me a little bit speechless, I guess, which is it's great on a podcast.
I have a friend who's a grown man now, but he said his mom was a hippie growing up, and there were weed brownies around, and I think he's in his 40s now, but he's probably 6 or 7 or 8. And this is a party years ago, and he ate a couple brownies because it was a house party, and he pounded a couple down as a kid would. They just saw some brownies sitting on the counter at a party, and he said his mom quickly realized that he was tripping his butt off. And, instead of taking him to the hospital, because this is a different time, she put on Fantasia. For real.
That's a total hippie mom, right?
It's a well, yeah, I can't say his name, but his name is a hippie name, and it's just
Shaggy.
It's more hippie than that. It'd be like if you named one of your kids
Sun Squad.
Yeah, yes. It'd be like if you named one of your kids Sunbeam or Moon Jumper. It's something like that. And I
was gonna say Starscream, but that's a Transformer.
Yes, and an evil Transformer at that. So I think that this not only is going to happen, I think this happens all the time. I think it's a lot less likely that your kid would, even if your kid did take a sip off of your gin and tonic, that would be so shocking to their senses. That strong taste of alcohol, that would make them put it down and say, what is this? To take a hit off of a regular cigarette, a child would be like, what is this? But the gummy bears taste like gummy bears. They are gummy bears, except for they're laced with drugs. And I think if we are going to have, and I am as liberal as they come in terms of like believing that not all drugs should be legalized, but marijuana is going to be used, and there's no point in throwing otherwise law-abiding citizens in jail for it. But at the same time, we do regulate things like we regulate they lock up freaking razors at CVS. So why are these?
Well, that's because they don't want you to steal them. They're probably locking up the hallucinogenic gummy bears as well. I don't think those are just out over the counter. But yeah, at home we don't. At home, I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start locking up my razors in a glass case and have somebody have to get a key to get them out for me.
You have to get your wife. We need my wife. Aisle 4, spare bedroom.
Hun, what? I need to get some razors. You got the key? Okay.
And I think it's razors and baby formula, the two
baby formula
top stolen things from CVS.
Let me ask you this. Because you brought up the thing about the Big League Chew and all that stuff. I had candy cigarettes. We had them all over the place. My grandpa used to get them for us. I think he also let us puff on his cigars too. Now that I think about it,
and let's not forget the dog track.
That was the other grandpa, I think, more than this grandpa was the Archie Bunker grandpa. I hate everybody. He like I remember just asking my mom, does he like anybody that isn't him? And she was like, no. All right, so we had, and I know everybody's different, and I was probably 35 years old when I was 7. I was just I was worried about the future of myself and being in complete control at that time. But I had candy cigarettes, and I remember another guy watching me, and they weren't just the sticks of sugar. They were the bubble gum ones with the paper around them that
Definitely.
you could take in,
And there was a puff of like dust that would come off of them.
Yes.
It's like preparing you to smoke PCP.
But I remember another guy who was on the baseball team that was older. He was a senior. I was maybe a freshman or something like that. And he's like, are those cigarettes? And I was like, they're candy, dude. And but it never made me. I just thought it was funny, I guess. But a lot of people would want to emulate what they see. I get it, but at the same time, it's so funny that my parents always said they didn't smoke either. My parents didn't smoke, didn't drink, so that made a lot of things easy for me to say no to, because if they did, you're around it, and then it's kind of more normal. And then, but if your parents don't drink or do anything like that, it's out of the ordinary in your household. So, but it was this whole. Did you ever have the candy cigarettes or?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, the candy cigarettes, the plastic guns, the cap guns, all these things were just the par for the course. I think that was part of adolescence, was emulating adults, and I mean that's kind of how that you socialize yourself. As you look at how your dad gesticulates, you look at how your dad drives and how he talks to people and how he shakes somebody's hand, or you look at how your mom nurtures or when she heads off to work, or all the things she talks about, you start talking like she does. You do all the things that the people that you look up to do. So I think that was the ideology behind the stoppage of that. I don't know how effective it was, but I guess it was.
It's so funny because that is the truth. You start out and you want to be just like your parents, and then at a certain point you want to be the opposite of your parents. Like you start to just take off on your own. My son's doing that right now, where he's kind of doing his own thing and very independent, unless he needs breakfast or money. And then what happens is that third stage is you're not trying or want to become your parent anymore. You just become them, and you are all the bad parts of them. I've never thought of it like that in the stages, though. When you're the little kid, you really can't wait. You do everything you can to emulate them. They're the coolest person in the world. They're amazing, and you like you said, gestures, facial expressions, everything's there. It's going to be the same. And then there's that phase where it's completely opposite. You got to do whatever they do. You're doing the opposite. I'll put more salt on this. Well, I'm putting pepper on, and then it becomes you're just them, and it's over. And you realize that you just are ready to die.
Well, I think that phase starts around teenagerdom, when you start to look at the people that are in your social circle, and you look.
By the way, perfect name for it: teenager dumb.
DUMB. How do we?
Yes.
Let's get that website right now.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was such a great coined phrase.
Yeah, but no, I mean it really is. I mean, you look around at your dumb, goofy friends, and instead of emulating your dad, who's probably could be a pilot or a former military guy, or the craftsman, you want to emulate the kid that gets attention from girls, or the kid that gets respect from your social circle, and or you want to be completely opposite, and you want to kind of be a jock, or so then your parents can't be any of these things, so then therefore your parents must be wrong. So that's right, you shun them, and then around 27 you're like, wait a second, my parents are pretty cool. And then by, I would say, 29, 30, you're a young version of them, and then by 40 you are them.
Yeah, you're right. There's one more phrase in there where you realize that they're okay, they did their best, And now, because you're in that phase where you're trying to raise kids and you realize how hard it is, and then you're doing all the things that you can't stand about what they did.
Yeah, well, not only do you realize how hard it is, you realize that it was hard for them and they had no resources.
Yeah,
I mean, right now, you can go to Google right now and say, my daughter just said she wants to talk to me about getting her period. What should I do? And then you can go on Google and listen to experts answer that, as opposed to our parents who was like, I don't know, ask your mom. You know,
that's what Google said to me. Ask your mother.
Ask your mom.
Hello, Siri.
Siri's like, I'm very uncomfortable. So yeah, I mean,
I'm more uncomfortable than you.
Our parents, made miracles in raising us without, I mean, my youngest son was sick a lot probably age 2 to 3. And, just having the internet there, deciding whether to go to the hospital, what do you do with this fever? And if he's doing this and what's the best, if he has diarrhea. I mean, what would you do in 1971 if your kid's fever isn't breaking? Like, what do you do?
Oh, that was kind of, that was how the herd got thin back then.
That's why everybody had 8 kids.
Everybody had a lot of kids because they were losing them.
Yeah, creating some roster spots.
I mean, it was, it was more before that, but even my kids, or my mom and dad would just get out in the street, go play, run across the street, dodge the cars, play. It's like real life Frogger. See what happens.
How often are your kids out of the house for more than 2 hours without you checking on them?
I don't know if they're ever out of the house more than 2 hours.
That's the thing.
I guess maybe they go every once in a while to a friend's house. And then it is weird. They're tethered to those phones, and we are too. And I get worried about it all the time. I mean, and I couldn't imagine. My parents would they didn't know where I was. I mean, I was all over the place. When I was like 10, 11 years old, I was riding my bike 2 miles away to go to the local summer camp thing. I don't even know what you'd call it. It wasn't really a camp, but it was the park and recreation thing. And I was out there. They didn't know where I was. And now I know if I got to find my friends, I know exactly where my kids are.
Yeah, you know where they are. You can contact them immediately. You can send your son or daughter text saying, bring your butt home right now, and they'll be home in 10 minutes. You can monitor where they are. There's a watch. I got my son an Apple Watch. My daughter wouldn't wear it, but I got my son an Apple Watch, and you can even set perimeters where you get an alert if they go outside of this perimeter.
I thought it was like a shock collar. I thought it was a shock watch. Like,
you know that's been proposed at the Apple's place.
The crab apple store.
Yeah, so I that's why I don't begrudge our parents. And then you think about the parents they came from, and this is no disrespect to our grandparents' generation, you and I's grandparents' generation, which would be our kids' great grandparents. But like you were talking a little bit about your grandfather, and like, is he ever not grumpy? I remember talking to my dad about.
Well, he was not grumpy. He just didn't like anybody who didn't look like him.
There we go.
There was a difference. If he was around a lot of Irish guys from work, he was fine.
Yeah.
But if he was around some person of color, I mean, just brutal. Just but I learned right and wrong listening to him, though. I believe to be right and wrong.
And now we both know that he was completely right.
Yes, 100%. But I'm sorry. I interjected on your stuff again.
No, but it's funny because your white Irish grandfather and my black grandfather were probably not that different. Right. I remember asking my dad about my grandfather, like, what was he like? Because I never really got to know him. He kind of passed away when I was probably 6 or 7 at the latest. Maybe it might have been 5 or 6. And I was like, what was Grandpa like? And my dad just said he was a hard man to know. And I think that it was just like that generation. They didn't have goof around time like we have. Like, let me call my friend and run our mouth about different things for an hour. I think you worked your balls off your entire life. You drank heavily, and then you ate terribly, you smoked too much, you drank too much, and you were out of here at 57. And I think that kind of you had no anger management, you had no interpersonal skills, you had no problem solving skills. And so if you and I had a problem, I just never talked to Frank again. Like
Right.
there was no like, hey, let's have a beer and work it out. It was just like, well, you're dead to me now, and I don't talk to my brother. And if you moved away, you never saw your mom. It's just like it was a different life.
I
These
think
are
that's
different
now
people.
called an election,
Yes.
where people never talk to each other again.
How many people? I That would be a cool show called Unblock Me, Bro. And you just go and and you you just see if you can get family members to unblock people, because you have to think at this point Trump's been in office what, 2 years, 2.5 years, 2 years,
2 tremendous years.
two of the most productive years ever.
Incredible.
So that means there are
Amazing.
people that have
I'm talking over you
as you
every
should.
time you try. Just don't laugh. This is probably what it's really like.
Yeah, can you imagine like doing a briefing with him in the morning? You just have to. He's got it. It doesn't seem like, because you've spoken with people on the phone. We all have. Whether there's somebody you're dealing with or somebody selling you something, you're buying. Just you don't have that phone rhythm with somebody, and they're like, yeah,
Right.
but okay, but yeah, yeah, there's a warranty, and just like I wonder if that's what it's like, but to talk to him about China, just like
Well, I
trying to
told
get
you
the
I met him years ago, and this was before this is 5-10 years before, 5-8 years before becoming president. That he was not that same person, and I don't. I have no idea. I don't know what he's like now, but he was such a different person behind the scenes that I almost didn't know who he was. So I don't. I still wonder if there's. I've also talked to people that have said any person who becomes president, their ego, there's no way for their ego not to be massive, because they're now the leader of the free world, and you have to make decisions. Part of it is you have to have some of that, because if you don't, you can't. You're making decisions constantly all day, no matter what president you are. They can be good or bad decisions, but you have to make definitive decisions now. There's nobody really, because you're the one who it comes back to. Again, this is not a defense of anybody or anything like that, but I wonder about that stuff, if that's still the way it is, or who knows. But like I said,
It has to be. There's no. What do you think is happening? What do you think you're going in the present? And it's like, should we let babies live or let them die? What's your decision? No, it's not that black and white. It's like, hey, okay,
if we build the wall, the babies will live.
that's it.
That has nothing to do with what we're doing. No, it's got everything to do with what we're talking about. Like, he wants to be a hypnotist, right? Like, you are getting very sleepy. Convife.
Yeah, but it's like, if you come to work as a president, somebody puts something in front of your face that says, hey, we have troops in southern Afghanistan. We need to take this city because we know it's teaming with ISIS or whatever horrible group is in there. Cool, let's do it. Well, we're looking at a 29% casualty rate. Oh, well, let's not do it. Well, they're in that city right now, dismembering anybody that goes against that government. So we need to get in there. Great. Well, so what should we do? Do you send people to die? Do you let other people die? And the New York Times is going to leak this story saying that we're sitting outside of this city doing nothing. So you're going to look weak if you don't send troops in. If you do send troops in, you're going to get killed in the paper for knowing that, it's 3 out of every 10 guys, men and women, that go in there. It's just difficult, nuanced decisions. And it happens every freaking day. And so you're exactly right. You do have to have a personality that says, hey, we're going full steam ahead. I know it sucks, but this is what they signed up for. Or, hey, we're going to hang back and that city needs to defend itself, and I'll take whatever flaming arrows of the press shoots at me. But either way, it's going to be unpleasant. It's going to be really unpleasant. There's going to be a meme on your name, Frank, more like hardly Frank with the, some kind of something horrible, some horrible
That's
headline.
a New York Post kind of
Yes.
headline.
Oh, yes.
A punny one.
Does Frank have beans? Question mark.
Hot dog. Frank makes his decision.
That's exactly what it would be, though. Yeah, it's tough, and so I think I think that's one of the things that's lost in a weird tangential conversation. I had to talk to my children's mother about just when I would go to work, they'd be like, "Oh, that's so sad," and I was hoping you're going to be here this weekend. And I know for a fact she meant well, but she'd be like, "Well, Daddy be here next week," and I'm like, "We need to tell the kids that your daddy's breaking his back for you guys. That your mom goes to work and sits in traffic for an hour and a half in LA rush hour to provide for you." And I think if we did a better job of, obviously will never really truly understand, but if we laid out for as much as we could, like some of the decisions that have to be made while we sit up with our feet up in a hammock, I think we would be a lot more sympathetic to the office and a lot more respectful to the office, because for some of the decisions that the higher ups in the military have to make, the people that make budget cuts have to make, Frank, I couldn't do it, and I couldn't imagine.
No, I could never do. I could never be in that type of decision-making situation. I think the thing that gets people in those situations are, what are the forces that are external forces on those offices or positions? If you're a general, they say you generally probably like to be in battle because that's what you live for. That's what you. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that example many times from probably more liberal people as opposed to, because people look at things different ways. Like you can look at our army and our armed forces as offensive, or you can look at them as being defense, and it's really the same thing. Just looking at what position you're coming from and how you truly feel about it. But I could never. I barely can figure out what I want for breakfast. Yeah. I'm not going to be able to tell people what they can do with their if this group of people survives. I could never, and I couldn't live with making those decisions. And there are people that have to make them, and it's the greater good kind of thing. And sometimes you think the greater good is the right thing, and it may not be, and then you have to live with that. And I don't know if I have the beans for that. This Frank doesn't have those beans.
I mean, yeah, it's a scary thing, and I don't think that they get as much credit as they should. I think that it's almost an impossible task, and the things that people that I'm sure decisions that guys made during the Vietnam War, decisions guys made for Benghazi, and then just everything that's worked and everything that hasn't worked. Because when you never hear about these successful missions, you hear about the ambushes, you hear about the leaked intel that led to this. You rarely hear about the heroic, or just like, not, let's take the heroic out of it, because that's the kind of thing that makes the paper. Just when like what you said would happen happened, and you made the right decision, and 16 people lived more than was estimated, you're not going to hear about that. Who's going to write about that?
Right.
You're only going to hear about the horrible stuff because that's what makes the papers. And then now all of a sudden you're warmonger Caliendo, and you're like, dude, we were surrounded.
Right.
So I don't know,
So you had a few topics that you texted me about that you wanted to get to today. So we've already been going 30 to 35 minutes almost already, and we haven't even started our agenda. So
Frank, I could look into those eyes and talk to you all day.
I know. I could look into my eyes and talk to I do it. I look in the mirror and I'm like, you are chubby Matt Damon. That's what I tell myself.
Dude, you're svelte. You're not chubby.
I'm a little heavier. I keep eating so much garbage. I'll exercise for 3 hours, and then I will eat just sugar. It's and smoke candy cigarettes.
Oh, only after sex.
So, so you, so the first thing, and I don't even know how to say his name because I hear people say it differently. Is it Bezos? Is it Bezos? I always say Bezos.
I say Bezos.
Yeah, like basil.
Yeah,
Not,
I think.
not the spice, the comedian, the Greek comedian,
Yes.
who my wife finds way funnier than me. Look him up.
I know Basil,
Does
yeah.
a Bullwinkle voice. So I'm not a voice guy. I'm not into the people who do the voices. Mimicry is for those who can't think on their own.
Shots fired.
So at myself apparently. So Bezos, he's in a little bit of hot water, or is it cold water? I haven't seen the pictures. I don't know. So
Shrinkage is real, Frank.
yeah, trust me, I live with it.
Yeah, well, my question for you, because I have way too much time on my hands. I think about things. Bezos was one of the first people to get blackmailed and have the kind of leverage. Blackmail is obviously all about leverage. He had the kind of leverage that could say, "Do your worst. Show my penis pic to the world if you need to, and then I'm going to come after you with all the guns that the richest man in the world has in his war chest." My question to you is, I guess, twofold. Do you think the threat of your penis pics is as heavy as it was back in the day because there are so many of them now?
I don't know. I've never had interest in taking a picture of my junk, not even with a fisheye lens. Which would probably help, but it sounds, the look on your face is like, well, I might have. There's no mic to it. Yeah, no. What goes through your mind? I don't get it. I've never gotten it.
Well, I think for men, I think that we are wired so differently than women. I mean, it's been said before, and I've talked to a million women that said we are not fans of this unless we are involved with you, in love with you, and in love with the member that you are sending us. It's very ineffective.
Could you put a little jacket on them, and members only jacket? Member only jacket. I think we got something to sell on the podcast. We got on the site, member only jacket.
You just have like it's a pig like that, but just it's whatever season is in fashion that year. It's like, look, it's a turtleneck. They're back with fanny packs.
There's got to be a condom called that somewhere. The member only jacket. Okay,
That's
so
really good.
So continue.
So my question is, no different than anything else. Let's think about this. The Sears catalog years ago was a big deal, not only because you could look for things that you could wish for things that you could one day buy in Sears, but also there was a section, no different than a newspaper, where you could look and you could see women's bras. And that was
it Sears or J.C. Penney? I remember the J.C. Penney was hot. You'd try to look from different angles.
Yeah, I think that was there in the newspaper too. So, all those places had women's bras, and that was a big deal. It was very racy. You could see a woman in a brassiere, even though there was a bra that your substitute teacher would wear. It was a bra, and we were happy for it. And then came along Victoria's Secret, and Victoria's Secret was now all bras, and not only were they bras, they were lacy bras and sexy bras and crotchless this and garter belts and all that good stuff. Then that became
really good stuff.
Really great stuff. Then that became old hat. And then you had the softcore porn, and then you could have porn on your phone. And now no one cares. If there was a bra on the street, I think people would step over it. And I'm wondering, are we headed that way with penis pics, in that we all fundamentally know that most people either have them or naked pictures of themselves? Doesn't have to necessarily be penis pics, and everybody's had so many partners that somebody's got a naked picture of somebody that you care and respect for. So then does it hold as much weight? even if it's the owner of Amazon.
That's right. Hold as much weight is innuendo itself. By the way, the penis pic and the dick pic, both. It's amazing. The penis pic has alliteration, and the dick pic rhymes. So
Yes.
there's a lot going on there. I wouldn't even throw that out there. We try to stay pretty clean, but it's just hitting me that I have to let people know in advance. I don't think that you can say that stuff on the radio now. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
In
think...
a bra, you can say it and nobody will care. Are we headed? Maybe. I don't know. There's no shame. I don't get it. Maybe mine's not fancy enough. I don't know. I look and I'm like, maybe we could dress this up.
I've been told I have the Tesla of penises.
I don't know what that means, but it's efficient. It's
nonsense.
efficient. It would be efficient.
Yes.
And government subsidized, right?
That's right.
And you're the genius behind it. There you go.
That's awesome.
You're the Elon Musk of your wiener.
You should be telling that to high school students. Listen, when you go out into that big world out there, remember, you are the Elon Musk of your wiener.
Oh, getting a little Elon Musky in here.
I'm
really good with the puns today. You have to admit,
you're kind of killing it.
Yeah, I'm hitting them hard. I don't know if they're dad jokes or you're laughing, so maybe it's just two dads thinking we're cool.
Yeah.
But
we're one step from starting a rock band in the basement.
You had that incredibly eloquent beginning about Black Mirror, and I'm doing rhyming words.
And alliterations. Don't short.
Alliteration, yeah, I knew what it was. That's a next up, spoonerisms, where I switched the first letter of two words.
All right, so like, does that matter to you? I mean,
I think it will never get that far, but because there are women in this world and they will just be sick of it because they're not really amused by it. Overall, they're kind of, especially if it's like you said, if it's two people with an intimate thing, I still don't 100% get it, but whatever. It's not going to be the same with the thing that went through my head was guys. We're always going to be fine. We're hoping for it to go that way with naked breasts and naked bodies, male and female. We just don't care. We hope. And women are like, no, we just want, we want you to see our shape, but just with really tight clothes over it. So have a little bit of imagination. And guys are like, why?
Here it is, baby. We know. We got it.
Why put the Lego set together? Let's just buy the real Millennium Falcon.
You know what I've heard, which blows my mind, Frank. I have, these are women in our profession. These are women that are not in our profession that said that they've been hanging out with a male colleague and not hanging out, like got done with work, went to a bar or restaurant to discuss said work or said seminar or said conference, dropped said male off at his hotel, and before they are out of the parking lot with no sexual words exchanged, boom, here are the fellas. And it just like, it really blows my mind that not only it seems like not only would it be incredibly vulnerable to send it to someone that you're dating or kind of dating or have maybe been intimate with once or twice, but to send something like that to unsolicited.
Well, I've been on TV shows where guys just pull it out. I mean, I've been on a couple of TV shows that it's been a while, but there were a couple different TV shows I was on sets and people would just, not people, guys, because they have them, would just yank them out. But there were people, and on one show I was on, there were more than one person that would run around naked. And it wasn't even always sexual. It was just, they like to be naked.
Exhibitionism?
Yeah, I guess. And I don't know. I didn't think much of it because I didn't care, but I could see people getting kind of, I think the crews, the crew people, the crew persons, not like a cruise, like an ocean liner, but like the crew, the people in the crew, I think they got more uncomfortable about it because it's like, it's really weird when you're going to work and running a camera and somebody's running around in the hallway naked, male and female. I mean, it's kind of you don't see that in many places that I know of. Maybe Wolf of Wall Street.
I don't know if that can happen anymore. I think.
I don't think it can. I think it was, and I couldn't even imagine, because this is 2000s, early 2000s. I couldn't imagine 80s, 90s, especially 80s, 70s, 80s. I'm sure there were just toga parties where the togas came off early, and that was at work.
Yes. Oh, 100%. So, I mean, you think about, like, again, 70s, 80s, especially early 2000s, that was not that long ago. I started my career in the mid 2000s. And I mean, the things that would go on in comedy clubs in terms of, like, there'd be a new waitress. They'd be like, hey, everybody, look at Macy. She's here. Turn around and let everybody slap your butt. And she would do it laughing. Women, male and female waitress. I remember being a young comic with my eyes coming out of my head like a Daffy Duck cartoon. Like, I could not believe what was going on. And now it just sounds crazy to say, and it's even crazier to say how passe that was and how regular that was at the comedy clubs I worked at.
I miss it. No, I'm always uncomfortable in any of those types of situations anyway. I would get women who would come up to me after shows, and I kind of think they were, hoping I would say something and hit on them and whatever. And I was just so awkward that I didn't know what to do. And other guys would be like, man, that woman was like ready for you. I'm like, yeah, I guess I missed the opportunity. But I'm always awkward. I've always been awkward in social situations. So it's amazing that I even got married. But I don't know. But I've seen it. I mean, it's a different world now. I have no idea where any of that's headed. I don't understand. We've talked about the entire process of meeting people. It's awkward in the beginning, even if you're not socially awkward, unless you're gorgeous either way.
Right.
And especially if you're a good-looking guy, that's the weird thing. Like, maybe that's why Hollywood is so naked. Good-looking guys and great-looking women, great-looking guys, they have their own type of privilege, right? Where if you're really good-looking, and we've kind of talked about this before, you're really good-looking. And now that I'm thinking about it, I remember you talking about it. It's you have extra opportunities. That's because we're a very visual society. That's what we are.
Well, your looks is a certain form of power. It's no different than money. I mean, you think about this. I'm not a male model, but if I walked into a nightclub, handed the bouncer an exclusive nightclub, handed him $1,000 and said, I'm going to buy a table for $10,000, I would be led right in. If I am a 6'1" model from Seoul, Korea, that walks up to that same exclusive nightclub and says, I have no money, they say, hey, look, we're just honored that you're here. Puffy is in the VIP. He'd love to meet you. And you'll walk into that exact same nightclub. One is with money, one is with looks, but we're both in the same nightclub because we have a certain amount of power to exercise. And I think that that's what it is. I mean, there's a reason that Harvey Weinstein had access to all these beautiful human beings. It's because he could make or break your career. And damn it, that's power. Yeah. And that power corrupts, clearly. Same with Bill Cosby for another reason. But and obviously these are sexual predators. I'm saying just the access to people. Because if you looked like Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein, but you drove Uber, we're not having this conversation.
Right. You got it? All right. So that was the only question you had for me about Bezos. We answered that succinctly.
That was it. I just, do we, you kind of answered it. Do we think we're going to see them, the rise and fall of dick pics?
Now we're having the phone thing where we talk over each other. I've been there. What did you say? Sorry.
Basically, do you think we'll see the rise and fall in dick pics? Like it'll reach a peak and then
again,
be like,
it's always innuendo.
I didn't even get that one.
Yeah, well, you're just throwing them out there. You're just shooting them. You're shooting.
I'll leave that one.
We are such old guys. Or are we frat boys? I'm not really sure. All right, the other thing which is a great segue into this, you'd had something about teachers. What was it?
Yes. I've obviously this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart because I was a middle school teacher. I taught middle school science for 5 years in South Florida. Everybody, shout out to my teachers, especially my middle school teachers. You guys are doing God's work. But I just read another article. I read an article 3 months ago that was called I have I have 6 jobs. I donate plasma, and I'm a teacher. And I just read another article, and it was a teacher saying, I have 4 roommates. I drive for Lyft and Uber. I do taxes, and I'm your kid's middle school teacher. And without getting too deeply into this, because this is an ocean of discussion. What do you why don't we pay our teachers? I don't want to compare them to athletes. There's a lot of money in sports. The athletes, even if they don't get their fair share, are going to get in. Even the runoff of how much money comes into sports is enough to make everybody in sports rich. What do you think it is on a societal level that there is not
Well, I think everybody wants to, right? It's not that anybody doesn't want to, but you and I don't control that, do we? Where's our control? Where do you and I have control in that situation? You can go to a state that's got a Republican legislature. You can go to one that's got a Democratic legislature. The teachers aren't going to be paid well comparatively to other jobs in either one, right?
You're exactly right.
So the money must be going somewhere because there's a lot of money going into that. I know where it's going. The Girl Scouts.
There it is. We're going to get to that.
That's a little foreshadowing.
Yes, but my thing is like you kind of hit what you just said, Frank, makes me further double down on my question because what you said, and I hadn't even thought about it, further proves that there's something very strange because you said everyone wants that. You know what else that almost everybody else wanted was legalized marijuana. And 5 years ago, that would have been a running joke. Oh, yeah, you're going to be able to go to a store and get marijuana. And now you can. Because enough people wanted it. So if everybody, but there were people opposed to it. I don't know if there are that many people that are opposed to paying teachers more. But like you said, in all 50 states, it seems to be universal. So why is that?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. For the marijuana thing, it's pretty simple. It's a product, you sell it, and then there's a profit. Right?
Right.
So there's a product, and that product ends up making money. How much money is directly made from a teacher teaching students? And then along the way, it becomes like if you have a good education, you end up having much of the time an opportunity to continue that education and grow and become more. But the other part of it, I would say, that's not profit kind of driven, is the amount of people in between where the money comes in and the money going to the teachers and the money going to the students. There's just a lot of steps, right? There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of channels, and there are people making money on stuff, and they're the ones making the money in the middle somewhere. I've got to believe, because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we're spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on education. And I don't know, because I'm not in there and I don't know enough, so I can't speak to it. I've never been anybody that says we need to pay teachers less.
Never.
It's not that's not even talked about. But with your argument, your not argument, but your observation, I don't know. Then you're right. Do people really want it that badly? The other thing people don't want is to be taxed more, and that's the only way you're going to pay people more. The teachers more, right? Is there's going to have to be more and more taxes, and then you get worried about money not going directly to the kids or directly to the teachers, and the whole process. It's too big. I don't know. But again, who doesn't? There's nobody ever says that. And everybody loves to say, you know what? Teachers need to be paid more. Everybody loves to say that. But then you go, well, we'll raise your property taxes. Can't we find a different way?
Yeah,
that I don't have to pay for.
John Gruden almost came out right there.
I'll tell you what, man. We got to find a different way there, man. Maybe you print money. You're the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, man. Print some money.
Yeah, it's something that literally has not changed throughout my lifetime. And I'm somebody who was not in the world of teaching. I was somebody that was completely immersed in the world of teaching and then was completely out of teaching. And it's still the same. I would say it's worse. I would say I don't know a teacher unless they have a husband or wife that makes enough money that doesn't have a second job.
I've heard this before. All right. And this may be part of an archaic, I shouldn't say archaic, but an older situation or way of thinking. Before World War II, where women did not work in the workforce.
And we were better for it. Sorry.
That's beside the point. No, but seriously, some people don't use that as quotes from us. So some of the smartest and unfairly, women were not worried about what they were making. They were the second line of income, second stream of income in the family, or they were single, and there was the society the way it was at the time. Men were buying the women everything, the type of thing. It wasn't really like you were even considered to be on your own. But then when World War II came and more women started getting into the workforce and women could get career jobs, all the smartest women, or a lot of the smartest women, moved out of that teaching world and then went into jobs where it was only men at the beginning. And now your teachers who were your biggest I'm going to get myself in so much trouble because people are going to say, well, there's still smart teachers. Yes, there are. And that's not the point. The point is that this is how it was, where people didn't worry about how much teachers made back then because it was women. It was unfair and it was wrong. And I think that's why the money just doesn't go there. And as much as people say it, then in government, they find ways to just move the money around and not get it to them. Did I talk too much in a circle there? Did you understand where I was getting with?
Not at all. I completely got that. I mean, I think you're right. I think everything is about perspective, and we do pay the professions that we value. There are not a lot of poets that are making six figures because we don't value that. But there are a lot of people that if you're a guy who if you let's say that you I don't know, you run a successful nightclub. If we found out that Club 607 down the street is making $85,000 every Friday and Saturday night, but it's the hottest club in the country or in the city, that's not that implausible to you. But I mean, if you sat down and said, well, which is more important, the guy that owns a nightclub that just really hires a DJ and has a pyrotechnic system, or somebody that's teaching every kid in that city, we'd all probably agree with the kid. But when we look at what we value, who's driving away in the Mercedes?
But again, it's the whole situation is where that person was making some decisions in their job, whether it's right or wrong, but there's money being made, and when money's being made,
that's right,
you have the opportunity to make more. And in a service type of situation, a public service, there's no way to make money on that. So
you're saying no different than like a city bus driver?
Well, that's the difficult thing, right?
Right,
They are
right.
different, and I think they are different, and nothing wrong with being a city bus driver.
Not at all.
We need the city bus driver. That's like the Mike Rowe conversation we had.
Right. Great benefits.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, if you're not in this system, which would be the argument on that other side of things, in terms of we talk to the libertarian, and why we need to talk to somebody on the socialism type of side, not type of side, but the socialism side. Like they would probably argue that that's why everybody needs to be paid more equally, because those important jobs will never be paid. And maybe there's a middle ground for that or something, but you have to find a way. You've got to take from somewhere to put the money in those pockets, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a completely positive way.
That's an honest way, yeah, of course.
But you have to find a way to do that. I don't know. I'm not smart enough, and I don't know the inner workings of it. But I always hear people saying, "Well, all the money never gets to the kids or the teachers." And I go, "Well, then where's it going? Where is it going?" Because I don't know, and I'm like I said, I'm not smart enough to ever understand it.
Well, speaking of where's it going with that beautiful transition, you beautiful man.
Yeah.
Let's start to bring this in for a landing with a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Frank, obviously, I've spoken on this podcast a number of times about my questioning where the Girl Scout money is going. I've talked about it on my television show, Daily Blast Live, which you can see on the television near you or on the internets every day. And I mentioned the same thing. And I had a troop leader send me an email Friday. It was contentious. I would say that she
Power
was
corrupts. Power corrupts. If you're leading troops,
that's right. She was.
I want you to be nice here. Be nice.
Oh, I'm. You know what? I'm gonna be very nice. I think she was passionate because she's passionate about being a troop leader. I'll read a little bit because I mean this is a 8-paragraph email. But let me I'll just set it up and then I'll skip around a little bit, but I'll answer kind of.
You know what? Hold on a second. Let's because we're going so well here. Let's leave this as a cliffhanger for our next episode.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because it's getting hot in here. I
was hoping you'd tell me to do the other thing.
Let's take off all our clothes and let's take pictures. But I think that's a great spot to actually end and cliffhang, and we will find out who shot Mr. Burns.
Yes.
On the other side. So make sure to subscribe to Al and Frank. Try to be serious. Take a look, like us, write reviews, just be our best friends. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for hatred. If we've offended you, that's your fault. No. We are always trying to just have conversations here, not look for the offensive side of things. I think that's the most difficult thing when you're watching TV. They usually pit two totally different personalities against each other to try and get some sparks. We try and get the sparks by just being silly and playing off of each other a little bit. So subscribe, like, do all the social media stuff. AlanFrank.com, AlanFrank, trytobeserious.com if you want to write out the whole thing or type out the whole thing. It makes you feel better.
Yeah, man. Always a good time. Please, we appreciate you guys listening. Please keep it up. Follow us on Instagram at Alan Frank Try and Be Serious, and me at Al Jackson on Twitter and Al Jackson IG on Instagram,
and at Frank Caliendo on Twitter. And he said everything else.
I think that's it, Frank. I'm gonna miss you.
I already ended the show.
Damn it.